Hey, welcome into this week's episode of Cincinnati Podcasts. I'm your main man, T Money, and we got Giggsy over in the Carolinas. We're bringing to you everything Bearcats football and basketball. We're here to cover everything, where they are in the rankings, what we need to happen to make the playoff. We'll recap some games. We'll talk about the upcoming games. We'll dive into a little bit of basketball now that that's kicking off. But I'm excited for this week. Greg, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I mean, it can't be better. Can't be better. Cincinnati just kicking ass and taking names, starting to garner some respect in the regular news media cycle here. I think we're getting a lot more respect out of people that were doubting us, which is great. We have teams in front of us losing, even better. But it's going to be great. We're going to dive into everything. So I'm excited. But before we do that, this episode is sponsored by Chili Labs. Chili Labs is owned and operated by UC alum and is the most affordable lab-tested CBD on the market. You can find out more at chililabs.com and use the promo code CATS for 10% off. So let's do it. Let's dive in here. We got Cincinnati's current rankings at number 2, Greg. Number 2, Woo. Highest ranking in school history, highest ranking of a group of 5 team. I mean, this is pretty awesome stuff right now. What are your initial thoughts when you see that? Number 2 in the country.
And since we had the week off last week, just to point it out, number 3 also the week before, highest in school history again. Yes. But dude, it's amazing. And to touch on something you said when you were opening it up, you mentioned us getting in like the national headlines all the time. You know, something I noticed, I think I might have texted you about this a while ago. Something I noticed is that more and more analysts are calling us UC versus just Cincinnati. And I feel like that's more of an adoption of our brand, because it used to be, for the past couple of years, it was, Cincinnati this, Cincinnati that. Now you hear like David Pollock, who I think sucks, but David Pollock calling us UC, Kirk Herbstreit calling us UC. And it's more of we're familiar with this team being at the top of the nation for a couple of years now. And we're familiar with them. This is what they go by often. And I think like kind of having that nickname in the spotlight and being spoken as UC is actually, like, at least to me, pretty big for the program.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The fact that they're adopting UC. I mean, people used to say, oh, what are you talking about? UC Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara? Like, what are we talking about here? It's pretty exciting stuff. That just goes to show UC really gathering steam full, train full of support up there. This is awesome. So we're second right now. We're trying to get in the playoff. We have the third best odds to make the playoff right now, behind Oklahoma and Georgia. We're at 61. Oklahoma's at 62. And then right behind us is Bama and Michigan at 59 and 38. We got some good odds right now to make the playoff. We just got to keep winning.
Yep. That's literally all we can do at this point. So I think you were looking at the ESPN odds, and even on Pro Football Focus, PFF, they have us at number 4 there with a 50% chance. And I mean, give me either one of those.
Yeah.
I think like a 61% chance, 50% chance. And I think as the season continues to progress, our numbers are only going to raise up. And as these teams continue to face big games, I think their percentages are going to drop.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be interesting. We need a lot to happen, though, to make the playoffs still. I think we need a few more things. You know, I think what scares me the most at the moment is Alabama beating Georgia in the SEC championship. That's what scares me the most. So I think the number one thing that we need to happen right now is Georgia to lose a game before the SEC championship. That would kind of solidify only one SEC team getting in. So there's a lot we need to happen. I don't see Georgia's schedule here any tough games other than this one this week at Florida, or with Florida. That is the one I could maybe guess. So right now we either need them to lose a game before that or to go undefeated, because Alabama wins. They're probably getting in with Georgia.
Yep. I am fully on board with that. And Alabama kind of they have a bit of a tougher schedule. They have Tennessee, LSU, and Arkansas all at home, but three Okay, one good team, two decent teams.
Yeah.
They are last game of the season at Auburn. So big environment, Iron Bowl clash there. That would be huge because then that puts them okay, if they won the SEC championship, maybe they'd get in with 2 losses with beating Georgia, but I agree. I think both of those teams just continue to fly through the schedule, and we need Georgia to win that because Alabama wins, Georgia's in, Bama's in, and we have one of 2 spots to try to grab.
Yeah. And what's frustrating about Alabama too, any other team loses to an unranked 2-loss team with their backup QB, and they're probably out of the contention for playoff spots, but yet Alabama's just got that name brand to be up there. It's really frustrating. So we'll see how that plays out. The other one's Oregon. I think Oregon's got to lose another one. We don't even want them to have a chance at sniffing the playoff. It could be the Big Ten, SEC, Oklahoma, and then us versus Oregon is what it's going to come down to because ACC's out. So I really need Oregon to lose. They got lucky this past weekend. They almost lost again. So we'll see what happens. They're playing UCLA this week, and they're actually a 1-point underdog at UCLA by Vegas odds. So this could be could be one of the games Oregon loses here.
Yep, I think so. Bama, Georgia, another big one. Obviously, Oklahoma with Caleb Williams as the new starting quarterback.
Yeah,
because let's see. Since he came in the Texas game, he was 16 for 25, 212 yards, had a rating of 161. Last week against TCU in a 52-31 win, he had almost an 80% completion percentage, 5 yards short of 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 243.4 rating. Crazy. I think he's kind of shown that he can come in, and again, their defense is not great, but if they're going to be able to put up 50 something points a game, like you see in consecutive games, I think he's brought a new spark to that offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, still looking at their schedule. Okay. So they're at Baylor on November 13th.
Tough one.
That's
still
tough.
Ranked.
Number 20. And then to end the season, November 27th at number 8, Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State too. I mean, I think in that one, I'll take Oklahoma, but I'm slightly worried that if Oklahoma State goes through the rest of their schedule and wins at Oklahoma, they're pushing for a playoff spot too. I mean, they play at Iowa State and at West Virginia. Those are both 2 difficult games that they could easily drop.
Yeah.
And again at Texas Tech. So I'd really like Oklahoma to take a loss because they've kind of shown to be a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous that Oklahoma State could get through the rest of their schedule undefeated as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially if one of them wins a regular season game, then the other wins the Big 12 championship. How will the committee see that? So I think at this point, I'm just rooting for Oklahoma to go undefeated. I think that's where I'm at here. Georgia go undefeated, Oklahoma to go undefeated. I mean, obviously I want everyone to take L's, but especially with Oklahoma State in the mix there, I don't think they're as good of a team. Their offense isn't as dynamic as the score points out. They've gotten a few pick sixes, but I think they're going to have a slip up. I don't think they go undefeated until they meet Oklahoma here. So I'm not too worried, but the other one is, we have a ton of Big Ten teams ranked right now. But Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State all play each other. They're just going to cannibalize each other. So, with that, I think only one Big Ten team's getting in. Whoever comes out of the Big Ten side with OSU, Michigan State, Penn State, I think is going to be the winner. Iowa proved to be trash, like I've been saying all year. And so I think that the Big Ten's only getting one in now.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this schedule, okay, Ohio State's on the road at Indiana this week. That would be huge Indiana for our schedule. I don't totally believe in them to do it because Ohio State's been kind of on fire against really bad teams the past 3 games.
Teams, yeah.
But I mean, they have a very heavily backloaded schedule, which is great for us. Okay, so then following week they host Penn State. They
Tough
host
one.
Michigan State on
Tough
November
one.
20th and are at Michigan November 27th. So a lot of these teams that we're talking about that are giving us a run for our money have very tough backloaded schedules. So yeah, like you said, I think the Big Ten, I'm assuming it's probably going to be Ohio State, but
Yeah.
I think they get one team because a lot of these teams are undefeated now, so they're going to take a loss at some point. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
one Big Ten team.
It'll be interesting to see, now as well, we can dive into the Heisman odds too, as we're getting closer and closer. Week 8 now. Ritter has been in the Heisman odds, got up to third at favorite there at one point. He's now dropped to fifth best odds, tied with Caleb Williams from Oklahoma now.
Yep.
He just hasn't gone crazy the past few weeks like we thought, even though we've been blowing people out.
And I think that's a good point, and I don't think it's totally fair that he has dropped a bit because we haven't needed him to go crazy. He was, I think he was 22 for 30 against Temple. Oh yeah, 22 for 30, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, great stat line, great completion percentage, but he really hasn't had to do much. We've barely seen Dez run it all this year, and I think it really stands to show that he hasn't needed to. He's gotten protection. We also haven't been playing great teams where he's needed to add his legs and his running ability into the equation. We've just been able to say, okay, Jerome Ford, take it. And Dez really hasn't had to. So I think it's a bit unfair that he's been dropping, but Heisman voters want to see those Matt Corral type numbers. So
I know.
I get it.
Well, what about Jerome Ford? He's sneaking up there, isn't he?
Number 11. That's at, let me see. I just had it. Number 11 at plus 6,000. So crazy odds. But I mean, to have 2 of your players in the top 11 in Heisman consideration is
pretty awesome.
Incredible.
Hey, he's leading the American in rushing right now. He killed it last week. I believe he had over 170 yards in the first half with 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, it was great. So let's dive into the last few weeks here. We weren't here for last week after Temple, but we can recap the last 2 games. Temple and UCF beat Temple by 49, beat UCF by 35, a combined 108-24 the last 2 games. It's been pretty great to watch. We just been throttling these guys.
Dude, how much did that 55-yard field goal that Temple kicked piss you off?
Oh man, wanted the shutout.
Would have been 52-0, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Jerome Ford's been absolutely killing it. Temple, he was 15 rushes for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ethan Wright, I loved seeing him in the game. Big 58-yard rush. We touched on Dez, and this was a huge game for the defense. Other than just the score, we had 8 total tackles for loss, 6 sacks. We've had 13 on the season. So I think that kind of showed how a little bit of how awful Temple is, but just how dominating our defense can be. And that Temple quarterback, while he almost never had time and doesn't have too many threats to get the ball to, Dwan Mathis was a 4-star quarterback that signed with Georgia. Like he was a 4-star, like top, roughly
he's a
around
legit
the top
guy.
300 recruit. Like, so we made him look like when Penn State lost Sean Clifford against Iowa a few weeks ago, that Robeson, we made Dwan Mathis look just like him, like completely lost.
Yeah.
So I was not surprised at all with how we played, honestly, though.
Yeah, we've been playing great. Defense has just been awesome. I really don't even think that last game, versus UCF shows how dominant we were. We were up 35-0 in the first half. They scored a touchdown in the last minute versus probably our third stringers at that point. So it was really like a 56-14 game there. They had one big play. I mean, our run game was just crazy. Ritter only threw for 140 yards and 1 touchdown because, like you said, we didn't need him. But that's probably a lot of the reason why he's dropping in the Heisman as well, because we are blowing these guys out, but Ritter's not blowing these guys out.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, the run game's been working, and the run game without Ritter has been working, which personally I love, because if we don't need him to run, like we really did not need him to run against Indiana or Notre
No.
Dame. And those were the type of games where you'd think, okay, we're playing pretty stout defenses. They're going to game plan for a rushing attack and for Ritter passing. Hopefully he can find some creases in the run game. We don't need him to. And
No.
especially against these pretty awful teams that we're playing at the bottom of the American, I do not want him running at all, because you like, do we want to see him rush this upcoming week against Navy and get injured? Like, that is absolutely like worst case nightmare scenario. So
Yeah.
It's been great.
It's been awesome. I think right now Cincinnati actually has the highest rush rate percentage that puts pressure on a quarterback, highest pressures per drop back of quarterbacks in the nation. I believe we have the highest in the country. Our defense getting pressure might not have the crazy sack volume, but we're getting pressure on every single snap, which is awesome. It's been really fun.
That's right around 50%, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been awesome. It's been awesome to see our defense showing up like that. So, and I really like that Evan Prater is getting a lot of playing time, because that's going to come in handy next year when he takes over as starter. But let's preview this Navy game. UC goes to Annapolis up there at Navy. 21 or 28-point favorites. What do you, Navy sometimes a sneaky good team, they run the hell out of the ball. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so speaking of run the hell out of the ball, this blew my mind. I was looking up some stats today. So they only average 15 more rushing yards than us per game, and they average about 59 yards passing. So this isn't a crazy almost 400-yard average rushing Navy team that we normally see. They're throwing the ball just under 9 times a game. So, I mean, why don't we, and I'm sure this is in the game plan, you stack the box, you practice against this triple option. When they decide to throw it 8 to 10 times, who are they going to throw it to?
Yeah.
You have Sauce on one side, you have Kobe on the other side, maybe one or two deeps, probably not two deep safeties. So you have Javon Hicks back there, or Brian Cook just coming up to just destroy whoever the ball goes to, maybe a corner in the slot in Arquan Bush. But I mean, I don't see how they're going to do anything against us. Navy is the second worst team we're going to play on the remainder of our schedule. They're 110th in S&P plus. So that's 88th on defense and 123rd on offense. And to put that in perspective, they're 130 teams. So one of the worst offenses in the country. The only other worst team that we're going to play coming up is USF at 116 in the third to last game of the season. But I just don't see how they do anything against this defense. I mean, you see what Notre Dame, who maybe not the best offense they've had in years, but Notre Dame still is a good offense, Indiana, good offense, and they could barely do anything against us. Same with UCF, who does have an explosive offense, even with Dylan Gabriel out. I mean, I just don't see how we're going to game plan that triple option. And whenever they try to get one-on-ones, I trust our corners 10 times out of 10 over whoever Navy's wide receivers even are.
Yeah, probably the best corner duo in the country. Good job on Kobe getting a pick 6 last week. I totally agree. Stack the box, put them one-on-one out there with the safety over top. It's going to be a massacre, unfortunately, for Navy. This is just not one of those years where they have a dynamic rushing offense like they typically do, and they can't pass to begin with. So tough one. We'll see. We're excited. I'll take Cincinnati and on the spread in that one for sure.
Oh, for sure.
So I know we had a lot of football recruits at some of the UCF game this past weekend. What were your thoughts? What have you seen going on in the football recruiting world there?
Dude, we had a good, I want to say at least 10 4-stars there. One that was really, really big. Trevor Carter, he's class of 2022. He's the number 4 player in Ohio and 114th overall. And he seemed to have an amazing time. And I think just regardless of the opponent, I mean, and UCF still is a big name and garners a lot of respect nationally. even with how the season's kind of going for them. But all these players got to see what we can do at Cincinnati. And on top of that, we did have an official basketball visit with Wesley Tubbs. He's the number 35 shooting guard, 135th overall. I think he's class of 2023. So he's a junior, but he was another big prospect to have on campus and just show like, hey, this is what we do here. Like the fan support that you see at this football game is what you're going to get on the basketball field. And I think it was one of the biggest recruiting weekends we've had in a very long time. Yeah. And a lot of those players that we were talking about who the offers went out to about 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of them on campus, and it was, I think, just a really big showing for all these juniors and seniors.
Yeah, pretty awesome, man. We're definitely stepping it up in our recruiting here. And I'm excited, these 2022 kids, they can come in and you can preach to them, hey, you play 1 year in the American. You might not even start because you're a freshman. By the next year, you're in the Big 12. Because we're probably 2023. We're probably negotiating that. We're not going to wait till 2024. I just think it's just such a great recruiting tool now to use that, 1 year and we're in the Big 12. 1 year. That's all you got to do. So exciting stuff.
And with this, with this big national attention, we're shooting our shot. There's this kid named T.A. Cunningham. He's a class of 2024. We threw him an offer. He's a 6'6", 265-pound defensive lineman, number 7 overall in the entire class of 2024.
That is amazing.
So that's what is that? Is that a sophomore? He's a sophomore in high school, and we threw an offer out, and it's like, why not?
Hell yeah, why not?
Number two team in the country. Let's go. Like,
come on, man. Why not?
Yep.
I love where football's headed right now. We'll see if we can continue to keep Fickle with the LSU job and the USC job. I will reiterate once again, I think the Penn State job is what scares me most if Franklin leaves for one of those two, but we'll see about that. I think we can move on here now, though, to basketball. We got the rankings that, are out for everybody. Cincinnati, obviously not in the top 25 as is Wes Miller's first season. We are ranked 117th in the country by Ken Palm right now, behind Weber State, Vermont, Toledo, and just above Furman. This is a slap in the face if I've ever seen one. What a joke. We have some legit players that were still from the Mick Cronin era, John Brennan era, and that Wes Miller has brought in as transfers or, with him from UNC Greensboro. Pretty annoying that they think we're going to be that horrible. What were your initial thoughts when you saw that?
Okay, so I disagree with it in a sense, but at the same time, almost, especially the people that don't heavily cover the team, they don't know what we have. Yeah. The only people we have coming back, we have Mike Adams-Woods just going down the lineup. Rob Banks, a walk-on. Yeah. Actually, he did get a scholarship. Jeremiah Davenport, David DeJulius, Victor Locken, Mason Madsen, and Mike Saunders. So we have about six guys, and most of them are very young and don't have a ton of experience. Like you said, we brought in a bunch of transfers from a couple from UNCG and Abdullah Doe from Mississippi State. Yeah. It's kind of like a weird melting pot of a bunch of players that we don't know how they're going to mesh. And from all I've watched and read and listened to, they're meshing really, really well, but you're not going to see that till they're out on the court. So while I think we're going to end up higher than 6th at the end of the season, I think okay, I disagree. There's no way Toledo and a couple of those other teams you named should be ahead of us. But when it comes to the AAC, I don't know. We're extremely unproven. We have a head coach who did amazing things at a small program. Let's see what he can do here. I have all faith. I think we end in the top 4, and I'm excited to dig into basketball a ton more in about 3 weeks or so.
Yeah. We were predicted number 6 in the coaches poll, the AAC basketball predictions. we'll see. Like you said, we're behind Houston, Memphis. Those guys obviously are going to have solid teams. They're preseason top 25 teams. SMU, Wichita State, always solid programs. UCF, I don't know about them. They never had a great basketball program. I feel pretty confident we could sneak up into the top 4, like you said. We have the number 1 and number 2 active best shot blockers in the NCAA. I don't think people realize the rim protection we're going to have here. From transfer Hayden from UNC Greensboro and transfer Abdul from Mississippi State. The 2 best shot blockers in the NCAA are on Cincinnati. So at all times, we're going to have a giant at the rim. So good luck trying to score in the paint versus us. Good luck with that one. I just don't think we're going to be the 117th best team, worst team in the freaking NCAA.
Yeah, and that's just like such a great change of pace for going from the John Brannon era where our big guy in the middle was Chris Vogt, who couldn't defend to save his life.
Yeah.
And now, like you said, Abdul Ado from Mississippi State, Hayden Koval, where was he? He went from UNCG to, I think, Central Arkansas to here. The number 1 and 2 shot blockers. Like,
crazy.
I think Ado is going to get the start.
Yeah.
But then you bring Koval off the bench to spell him, and Hayden Koval can shoot the 3 too.
Yeah.
So he's athletic. I think Ado's more of your big man presence in the middle that's just going to swat guys. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I obviously don't know this stat, but I would be extremely surprised to hear if this has ever even happened in NCAA history.
That's a great point. I'm not sure if that ever happened.
Like, I don't know how to look that up, but like, that's absolutely unbelievable. Like,
it
luck
really
scoring
is
at the rim. Good
Yeah,
luck.
good luck. And hey, I'm excited for that. And our future right now, number 18 overall recruiting class with 2 4-stars and a 3-star. I love what Wes is doing here. It's Miller time, baby. So it's really great what he's done with this basketball program. I think he's going to turn it around quick. I am expecting to make the tournament. That's how I feel about this. I think we could sneak in a play-in game, be right on that bubble. That's what I'm looking for, to at least be in the talks to be on the bubble.
Yep. If John Brannon could get us in the tournament 1 year, had it not been canceled for COVID, Wes Miller can do it.
Yep, for sure. Excited where basketball's headed. We'll keep diving deeper into that as we get closer to the season kicking off here. Good stuff, Greg. We got Cincinnati at Navy this weekend on Saturday. It's going to be a good one. No ranked versus ranked teams this week, so we can take a breather here. Hopefully Georgia, Oregon go down. We always are rooting for that. And keep watching for more episodes of Cincinnati Podcast. Greg, thanks for a great episode. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. I'm going to be at the Navy game on Sunday. I'm excited. Let's go. Number 2 in the nation.
Enjoy that Navy game, Greg. You kill it. Go Bearcats, number 2 in the country. See ya.
Yep. Go Cats.